Thank you so much, Evelyn. I'm going to talk a little bit about Santorini. I'm going to provide my own point of view about Santorini. Everybody knows what's happening down there. It's a huge, very popular touristic destination. And I'm glad enough to have some experience there. You know, I have been collaborating with the State Argyros since 2017, as you mentioned, and I have been teaching in the University of West Attica since 2014. Actually, my academic background is on the viticulture and enology field, but I have been involved for many years in wine tourism. And let's have a look about my point of view and let's discuss afterwards about this phenomenon. First of all, I'm going to spend less than a couple of minutes to express the reasons why Santorini is such a unique place for growing grapes and making wines. In Santorini, we make top-class, world-class white wines, not red, but the white wines we make are top-class. All right, the reasons is, first of all, we grow grapes on a 100% pure volcanic soil that was created after the huge eruption of 1612 BC. That was the second biggest eruption in the recorded history of humanity. And millions of tons of lava were blasted in the sky. So all this lava started falling down, covered the island. So today we step on a mixture of volcanic rocks and volcanic ashes. And the vines are actually growing on volcanic rocks and volcanic ashes. So 5 things that make this terroir so special, so unique. First of all, the soil. In my opinion, the soil is the most important part. But also the climate is very unique, very extreme, very hot, very sunny, very dry. This is not necessarily a good thing because climate change is a threat for sure. So we have a very unique soil, very poor in potassium, which means that the grapes tend to retain very high acidity, which is really good. Assyrtiko as a grape variety also tends to retain very high acidity. So the wines from Santorini have a pH of 2.8, 2.9, which is so unusual for such a hot region. The soil doesn't have the ability to retain water. It's a very dry soil, very infertile, very weird composition of minerals. The soil, as I said, is the most important part. And the soil, as I mentioned, is a mixture of volcanic rocks and volcanic ashes. The climate is very unique. Sometimes the rainfall is less than 200 millimeters a year, which is the level of a desert. Below 200 millimeters is considered as a desert. And as I said, it's extremely hot, sunny, and dry. We have definitely some winds from the north. We have definitely some mist from the sea, but this is not enough to calm down all this heat. We have ancient vines, resistant to phylloxera, no American rootstocks, ungrafted vines, up to 200 years old. And we have unique training systems. We grow the vines, you know, as low to the ground as possible. And there's many different local grape varieties, with Assyrtiko being by far the best, by far the most important one, by far the most predominant one. Assyrtiko is a grape variety that makes bold, robust, powerful white wines. It's not very aromatic, and that's a good thing in my opinion. It has the ability to express very well the terroir of its particular region where the vines are growing. Assyrtiko has now been grown all over Greece, but also in Turkey, Bulgaria, Italy, a small plot in California, a small plot in South Africa, and a bigger vineyard in Australia, Clare Valley, Australia. All right, Assyrtiko is by far the most important grape, and Santorini is all about Assyrtiko, to be honest. But we have more varieties like Aidani, which is more aromatic, different, has a kind of an oily texture in the palate, lower acidity. So let's talk now about wine tourism in Santorini. It's a phenomenon that is really hard to copy. Nobody else can do exactly the same that like Santorini does, because the conditions are very unique. It's such a tiny island, such a small island, but there is more than 2.5 million people visiting the island every season. There is about 20 wineries not very far from each other. As I said, it's a small island. All of them are, of course, accessible to visitors. You know, wine tourism is currently a huge industry in Santorini. There's many private companies that they do just wine tourism. They have their own minivans, minibuses, and there's like always one driver and one wine expert in each van, and they actually pick up people. They take them to 3 or 4 or 5 different wineries. They spend 4 or 5 hours. They create their own experience based on the wineries of Santorini. Wine tourism is huge also for the wineries themselves. So they definitely try to develop the facilities to make a nice, good-looking tasting area. Each winery has its own philosophy about wine tourism, but they all try so hard. Wine tourism is a really important source of income for the wineries, and wine tourism is a really important, is a really good opportunity for winemakers to show themselves, to get some personal contact with potential buyers, with people from all over the world. That's so important. So most wineries now have their own people who work only dedicated for the wine tourism. They have well-organized tours and tastings, and they definitely focus on that part at the moment. As a state Argyros, I don't want to talk a lot about what we do in a state Argyros. I just want to say one word: honesty. I think we try very honestly to show people what we do, and we try very honestly to express the terroir of Santorini. Let's talk a little bit about wine tourism in Santorini. What are the problems that we face? What is the potential for more development? Of course, you know, there's beautiful landscapes all over the island, everywhere. There are some wineries that are just located on the caldera side and have an amazing view. We know that. But the volume of visitors, the number of visitors that they receive, especially the wineries that are located on the caldera side, is huge, enormous. It's not easy to deal with that. We need many people to work. We need more spaces. We need, sometimes we need glasses with a very thick bottom, so they will not be carried away from the wind. The wind blows away the glasses. The conditions are not easy. It's too hot sometimes. It's too cold some other times. It's too windy always in Santorini. We face a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, but there's so many people visiting the island, and of course that's the most important advantage. We have to be careful about the quality of the services, because success story is temporary, not permanent. There's a lot of people that come now in Santorini for wine. Of course, 95% of people who come to Santorini, they don't come just for wine, they come for holidays. Let's make that clear. But there is many, let's say, secondary wine tourists, people who come for other reasons, but also they have a very strong interest on wine. But even people who don't care at all about wine, they will visit at least one winery in Santorini. It's a part of the activities that somebody will do if they come to Santorini. Everybody visits a winery, even if they don't like wine. So we have to deal with that as well. We have to get a lot of people to educate them, to train them, and make them work hard. And so the philosophy of the wineries, speak many languages, which is also very important. Not everybody speaks English. I mean, not everybody from the side of the visitors speaks English. So we have to show them good time as well, to the ones that they speak French or German or other languages. All right. I believe if we talk about wine tourism in Greece in general, as my colleagues mentioned before, we have to consider the local details and the local differences of each place. Santorini, it's not like any other place in the world, not just in Greece, in the world. What happens in Santorini, such a tiny island, to receive this amount of visitors is a unique phenomenon. So Santorini is a different story. We cannot compare it with any other region. If we try to make this comparison, I think it's wrong. There is no chance that anybody can do exactly the same in Greece. I will explain the reasons later on. But what we do in Santorini has to be reorganized. We have to rethink, we have to reorganize what we do now. At the moment, it is a success story, as I mentioned, but there's a lot of potential threats and dangers. First of all, the most important part, the vineyards. You know, the vineyard area is reducing, gradually reducing. Unfortunately, young people are not so much involved with the grape growing process. So somebody has to grow the land. Climate change is not a good thing for Santorini. For northern countries, as you know, okay, it might be all right for cooler regions. But for Santorini, the water stress that the vines experience is 20 times more than a water stress that we try to apply in any other wine region. So that's enough, I think. Even more water stress would be too much. So if the vineyards of Santorini look like this, that's the good case scenario. But usually, to be honest, today, the vineyards look pretty much like this. As I said, water stress is a good thing. This forces the vines to produce few but very concentrated grapes. So this is how we make amazing top-class white wines. But too much water stress, it's not necessarily a good thing. So we have to think about preserving the land, and we have to think maybe about watering the vineyards. Let's speak a little bit about gastronomy in Santorini. Is there any gastronomy in Santorini? Local products? Yes. The answer is yes, but not that many. And not every restaurant is serving local food. There is many fine dining restaurants. There is top chefs from Greece and other countries that they cook very good food in Santorini. Okay, right. Very expensive, but very good food. There's some more traditional kind of places, tavernas, but I'm not sure if both fine dining restaurants and traditional tavernas offer local food, to be honest. All right, talking about local products. It's very obvious that not many crops can survive in Santorini. There's not many plants that can grow in this dry soil. But however, there's a few products that are very unique to Santorini. These cherry tomatoes, this particular variety grows only in Santorini. Santorini people used to consume them fresh or sun-dried or as a tomato paste. They used to have a huge factory for making tomato paste, but at the moment, they still make some tomato paste, but not that much. The old factory is at the moment a museum. There is the yellow split pea, they call it fava, and that's a PDO product. We can make a puree out of this product, and this puree will be an excellent side dish for any kind of protein, both fish or meat. There is some kind of white eggplant, which is very sweet, delicious, fantastic, but very thick skin. Very thick skin. I mean, we better remove the skin before or after we cook it. It's a little bit thick, but the taste of this eggplant is fantastic. Capers. You know, capers grow everywhere in Santorini, even in the wall, even on the rock. They grow just everywhere. They don't need any soil to grow. They don't need any water to grow. In Santorini, they also pickle even the caper leaves, which are delicious. They have a unique variety of a cucumber. They call it katsuni, nice, fresh, refreshing, aromatic. And there's some fresh fish and seafood, which is so important. But to be honest, fishing is not as big in Santorini now as it used to be in the past. All right, the most important product is wine. That's for sure. In Santorini, there's two PDO wines. PDO Santorini, which is a dry wine, and PDO Vinsanto Santorini, which is a sweet wine. PDO Santorini, there's another kind of version, they call it Nectari. It has to be a PDO Santorini, plus it has to have a minimum alcohol content of 13.5%. Quite easy, quite usual for the Santorinian standards, and it has to spend 3 months in oak to be called Nykteri. The sweet style, the sweet wine has to be minimum 51% Assyrtiko. It has to spend at least 2 years in oak barrels. That's another important thing I want to mention. Santorini is on the way to become a monument of World Heritage recognized by UNESCO. That's real good news. If this happens, it will be really good. But even if it happens, it's all about us. It's all about people to take care of the vineyards. If it's protected, all right, maybe it will be in terms of legislation more safe. But we have to take care of the vineyards anyway. Santorini, the vineyard of Santorini is really unique. It's worth it to become a World Heritage by UNESCO. The way how we grow the vines, the traditional cultivation techniques and practices, the tools they use are also unique. It's a part of the culture, it's a part of the history of Santorini. Viticulture is definitely a part of the Santorinian history. Let me talk a little bit about people who work in Santorini, in the wine tourism industry. There is people from different backgrounds, and we have done a kind of a research with one of my students in the University of West Attica. That's a dissertation, his bachelor dissertation. Dimitris has done a good job. We made a questionnaire and we asked people who work in the wine industry of Santorini to give some answers. So the age of people is around between 26 and 33 years old. That's very usual, that's very normal, makes sense. Most people have a university degree. A lot of people have a master's degree. That's also usual for Greek young people. And 62% of the people who hold the university degree they hold is related somehow to wine tourism. In terms of WSET education, to be honest, I would expect a little bit more, a bit higher numbers. 56% of the people who work in the wine tourism industry in Santorini, they have not done any WSET education. But some people, some of them, the 56%, they say that they are about to do level 1, level 2. So they work once for 1 summer for 2 seasons, and then they go and do some WSET education. Or some other part of this 56%, they have done other relative kind of schools and seminars. Working experience. Most of the people who work in the wine tourism industry of Santorini, they have worked in wineries before, or restaurants or wine bars. In terms of foreign languages, I would expect also a little bit better. Of course, everybody speaks English, but there is just 29% speaking 2 foreign languages, 9% speaking 3 foreign languages, and only 4% of those people speak 4 languages or more. Accommodation is a really important issue in Santorini. Winemakers want to employ more people, but they don't find accommodation easily to host them. So only 44% of the people who work in wine tourism in Santorini live in Santorini throughout the year. And to be honest, I would expect even less. In terms of payments, salaries, all right, the salaries are good, satisfying, but the amount of work is enormous. People who work in the wine tourism industry of Santorini, they work really hard. Probably they expect even higher salaries. Probably they deserve even higher salaries. Finally, let's talk a little bit about the model of Santorini, how it works, what are the advantages and why nobody else can copy it. As I said before, huge number of visitors. Santorini is a very popular touristic destination. It's a very popular honeymoon destination. And anyway, it's a very popular destination for everybody. It's a must-see once-in-a-lifetime destination. Of course, there's spectacular views and landscapes. It's a very solid, compact wine region, small island, many wineries, not far from each other. There is so many high-end hotels and restaurants. Santorini is full of good services, good hotels, good restaurants. And Santorinian people are lucky enough to have a very strong tradition in winemaking, thousands of years of tradition of winemaking, a lot of history as well. And they are lucky enough to live in the most important wine region of Greece at the moment. Everybody knows that Santorini is one of the most important wine regions of Greece, probably the most important one, producing outstanding world-class white wines, as I mentioned so many times. And Santorini has a very unique terroir as well. So for all those reasons, there's no chance that somebody can copy the wine tourism sector of Santorini. Nobody else. We have to think about particularities of specific places. Every place is different. Every place we have to think about a different model. What has to be changed in Santorini? First of all right, we know that we will build more hotels and more restaurants. We know that for sure. But at least let's do it in a good manner. Let's do it in a sustainable manner. Development and construction must be done in a sustainable way. We have to take care of the environment. We have to take care of the cultural heritage of the island. However, some very basic infrastructure like the airport, like the port of Santorini, the main port of Santorini, they are not in a good shape at the moment. They are very small, not very new, not in a very good condition. So we have to do something about that. For 2.5 million people visiting the island, we have to have a better port, a better airport, and bigger. We have to plan better, to organize better, to work, all of us close to each other, all the wineries in cooperation. Advertising, I don't know. Santorini at the moment doesn't need so much advertising. The success story is here. Even during COVID, 2021, you know, it was a full season for Santorini. Nothing changed. Only 2020, it was like a bit reduced, but still we had visitors, 2020. 2021 seemed like no COVID existed in 2021. But we have to advertise the work that we will do. We have to advertise the vineyards and the high quality wines. This is what we need to advertise even more, a bit more. We need to get people with passion, to train them, well-educated people who speak foreign languages, and we have to let them work hard, because they will work hard, that's for sure. If we can find the right people to address the right visitors, that would be great. But it's not easy because, as I said, it's a huge amount of visitors. Sometimes some visitors are like wine journalists, very famous, but the person who runs the tasting doesn't know about it. So we have to know a little bit who is coming. We have to control a little bit the services, but the services must be good in any case. Even somebody doesn't know at all about wine, even if somebody doesn't drink wine, we have to educate those people and still tell them what we do in Santorini. This is what I believe. This is my opinion. All right, the phenomenon of climate change. It has to be addressed even more. We have to study, we have to do research, we have to take care of the vineyards. This is the conclusion. This is the most important part, in my opinion. We have to preserve the vineyards. We have to save the vineyards, to take care of the existing vineyards and also grow and plant more vineyards, new vineyards. This is, if we want to have future in Santorini, we have to take care of the vineyards and we have to grow more land. I'm done. I don't want to say anything else. Of course, if you have any questions, any comments, I will be more than glad to hear an answer.
Thank you, Evangelos, for giving this talk, about Santorini. I'm curious to see if there are any questions, because I have myself some questions as well. Please, just a moment. Yeah. There is a question from the room. Yeah.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. I have a question in regards to the last things you were mentioning, you mentioned a lot about what needs to be changed in Santorini, but like in regards to the wine tourism, the education, the wine education, language education, but is there like ideas of how that will be done and who will be doing that?
Yes, of course, there's many ideas, but I need at least a couple of hours to present all that. First of all, our department, the Department of Wine and Beverage Sciences, must focus a little bit more on wine tourism, because wine tourism is a really important product for Greece. And you know, of course, our department is doing some good job. We have to focus a little bit more on wine tourism, I believe. There's many schools, including WSET education in Athens, but I think even this is not enough. We have to do a lot of seminars, a lot of private schools to educate people about wine tasting, about wine and viticulture. What exists at the moment in Greece, in my opinion, is not enough. Talking about foreign languages, Greek people speak up foreign languages. For a weird reason, the people I meet in Santorini, they don't speak that many as I would expect. Or this is a personal thing. There's nothing that we can do about that. I mean, it's up to every person who wants to come to Santorini and work to learn foreign languages. But yes, there is a lot of things that have to be done. And thank you for your question. Education is a really important thing, but it's not the only thing. The state also must give extra motivation. Extra programs must be created to involve people, to involve organizations, to involve educational institutions and work all together. This is what I believe it has to be done in Santorini and wine tourism section in general.
I just have a follow-up question then when it comes to, so I guess then support coming from the governments and funding, I guess, or like where would the money come from for funding such things like the education?
Maybe the wineries themselves can participate. Maybe programs from the European Union. Maybe, you know, foreign investors want to invest in Santorini, and they do want to invest in Santorini. So it can be a combination of all that, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe we design a new master program on
Exactly.
wine tourism.
I was going to mention something about that, and yes.
Geisenheim University and Department for Wine and Beverage Sciences of University of West Attica. Maybe they can offer some studies in the field. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions in the room? Yes, just a second.
Sorry, I was a bit late. Maybe I missed it, but is there no red wine produced at all in Santorini?
No, there's some red wine produced as well. About 10% of the wine which is produced is red. But, you know, a red wine from Santorini is just a red wine. A white wine from Santorini has a character. Every white wine from Santorini has a character. No red wine from Santorini has a character, at the moment at least. The soil, the climate, all the conditions are very suitable for producing amazing, excellent white wines, both dry and sweet. And the conditions are not that great for making red wines. However, every winemaker, not everybody, most winemakers are trying to have at least one red wine on the list. And some of them are very decent, actually. But I don't think that red wine is a typical local product of Santorini. The typical local product is the white wine. And by far, the most important product of Santorini is the white wine, not red. Red is average, white is top class, world class.
Okay. There's one question in the chat room? No. Okay. Okay, then we continue with the next talk. Vangeli, thank you very much. We don't want to take too much out of the time.
Of course. Thank you so
Thank you
much. Thanks a
again
lot. Thank you, everyone.
for your
Have a very good
contribution.
day. Thank you.